Hundreds of millions of Americans will fire up a grill this summer. Pick up a bottle of seasoning. Shake it over the meat. Never flip the bottle to read what's inside. But here is something that might surprise you. In April this year, California dairies recalled over 2 million pounds of non-fat dry milk powder, contaminated with salmonella. That powder didn't just end up in dairy products. It ended up in seasoning. Blackstone at Walmart recalled. Amazing Taste at Kroger recalled. FDA Class 1. The highest level. Most people grilling this summer have no idea milk powder is in their seasoning to begin with. America's #1 grill seasoning started at a deli. In 1928, a Romanian Jewish immigrant named Reuben Schwartz opened a delicatessen on Saint Laurent Boulevard in Montreal. His pastrami spice, slow-cured into beef over 10 days, became the house signature. By the 1940s, a cook everyone called the Shadow started sprinkling that same blend on his own steak during lunch. Steakhouses across Montreal copied him. In 1997, McCormick bottled it, named it Montreal Steak Seasoning, took it national. Schwartz's original had 6 ingredients: coarse salt, cracked black pepper, garlic, onion, coriander, dill seeds. That's it. The commercial version is different. Pick up McCormick Grill Mates, Montreal Steak. Read past the spices. Sugar, cornstarch, silicon dioxide. Pick up Lawry's seasoned salt, dextrose, calcium silicate, modified cornstarch. Some rubs list whey, non-fat dry milk, buttermilk powder. Each one serves a purpose. Sugar speeds up browning. Cornstarch and silicon dioxide prevent clumping. Milk powder adds richness and helps the seasoning grip the meat. You think you're shaking spices onto a steak. You're applying an industrial blend. Dairy, sugar, and anti-caking agents inside. And when a single batch of milk powder gets contaminated, every seasoning that used it follows it off the shelf. This is how it actually gets made. The entire production process for grill seasoning is built around one principle: keep everything coarse. It starts at McCormick's facility in Hunt Valley, Maryland. Raw spices arrive from more than 100 countries. Every batch runs through magnets, destiners, and air jets. Stones, stems, metal fragments all blown out before anything else happens. Then comes sterilization, high-pressure steam, just seconds, long enough to kill bacteria like salmonella, short enough to keep the oils that give each spice its smell and flavor. No radiation, no chemical fumigation, just steam. Each ingredient is processed separately. The grind is where the real decisions happen. Black pepper gets cracked, not ground fine. Coarse pieces sit on the meat surface. They give the crust something to grab. Fine grind dissolves, disappears. Garlic is dried down, roughly 60% of its moisture removed, then crushed into granules. Granules spread more evenly, release flavor more slowly. The seasoning keeps working through the entire cook, not just the first minute on the grill. Paprika is milled finer. Its job is color, not texture. Coriander and dill seed are lightly crushed, enough to release their oils, not enough to shatter them. Blending happens in a ribbon blender. A long metal trough, spiral blade. It folds the spices over each other at low speed. Overblend. The pieces turn to powder. Powder can't form bark. Coarse salt pulls moisture out of the meat surface. A dry surface browns the meat. Browning only starts above 285 degrees Fahrenheit. That's what builds bark. The dark crust on the outside of grilled meat. It can't happen on a wet surface. Coarse spice fragments grip the surface. They form the crust. Grind it fine. The bark never forms. Now here's where some formulas split. Pure spice blends stop here. But many commercial seasonings add one more step. After the spices are blended, milk powder, whey, or buttermilk powder goes in. On the grill, the dairy browns faster and deeper than spice alone. Darker crust, richer color. It also helps the seasoning cling to wet meat instead of sliding off. Most consumers don't know. Quality control runs parallel. A scanner checks color, master sample. A moisture analyzer flags batches too wet or too dry. A trained tasting panel, 4 to 6 people, paid $30 to $60 per session, rotating every 6 months, tastes each batch against the original. Bottles are filled by gravity. The seasoning simply drops in. No screw press. A screw press would crush the coarse pieces the entire process was built to protect. Every machine, every setting, every decision fights against grinding things finer. Same shelf, same shaped bottle, different inside. Schwartz's original formula had 6 ingredients from 2 or 3 suppliers. McCormick's Grill Mates version lists more than a dozen. Multiple countries, multiple industries. Every ingredient beyond the original 6 does something practical, prevents clumping, deepens browning, helps it stick, but each one also adds another supplier, another warehouse, another shipping route, another point where contamination can enter. 6 ingredients means a short chain. 12 ingredients, 8 suppliers. That's a wide web. One contaminated batch at a dairy plant in California can reach a Walmart shelf in Texas before anyone catches it. The bottle lists what's inside. It doesn't tell you how many hands touched it on the way there. That is exactly what happened. In April 2026, California dairies discovered salmonella in its non-fat dry milk powder, recalled over 2 million pounds. But the powder had already shipped. Blackstone Parmesan Ranch seasoning at Walmart recalled. Amazing Taste Garlic Rosemary seasoning at Kroger recalled. In August 2025, QST ingredients recalled nearly 20,000 pounds of seasoning blends. Barbecue, lemon pepper, Cajun, metal fragments in the mix. One supplier failure, dozens of products, multiple brands, thousands of store shelves. Not because any seasoning company cut corners. That's how supply chains work. Every ingredient passes through many hands. Each hand is a risk point. Most seasoning recalls never make the evening news. They land in FDA press releases that most buyers never see. The April recall, highest risk level. Most people grilling this weekend don't know it happened. Now flip the bottle. The lot number's on the bottom. Match it against the FDA recall database. 30 seconds. If the ingredients list milk powder, whey, or non-fat dry milk, you're tied to the dairy supply chain, not just the spice chain. This pattern goes beyond seasoning. Dry milk powder shows up in protein bars, instant soup, coffee creamer, infant formula. Every product sharing a supplier shares the risk when that supplier fails. Or skip the chain. Coarse salt, cracked black pepper, granulated garlic, granulated onion, coriander seeds, dill seeds. 6 ingredients, 2 minutes. The Schwartz's formula before McCormick ever bottled it. Not every blend contains dairy, the label tells you which ones do. But knowing what's inside the bottle and how far each ingredient traveled to get there gives you a framework to decide for yourself. This summer, you'll stand next to the grill, you'll reach for the bottle, now you know what's actually inside. That's the process. We reveal how things actually work, one story at a time. If there's something you'd like us to explore next, let us know. Until then, trust the process.